Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown. I've recently been asked what was the motive of the killer of Maryland teacher Mariame Toure Sylla. What was his motive? People are very confused about this, and the police have not yet stated what his motive would be. I'm going to try to bring all this into perspective, what the police are looking at, what as a profiler I would be looking at, and why this is quite an unusual case. Now, many people would jump to the conclusion, well, let me read you just a little bit from the recent report so you can, if you don't know this case, you can understand it a little bit. Very short bit here. A bond hearing for University Park, Maryland man accused of killing a Greenbelt teacher. And the University Park is, I would say, I'm in Maryland, so I know this area very well. I would say University Park's near the University of Maryland. It's probably 5-7 minutes from Greenbelt at the most. So we're talking, he lives fairly close to where she lived. All right. So there was a bond hearing for this killer. Well, let me say alleged killer. Okay, let me not screw that up. Alleged killer. Was continued Tuesday according to court documents. And he's supposed to make an appearance, but it's been continued. All right. Last Friday, Prince George's County Police announced murder charges against Landon in connection with the death of Mariame Toure Sylla, 59 years old, who taught at the Dora Kennedy French Immersion School in Greenbelt. Landon has been in the custody of the Department of Corrections since August 1st on unrelated assault charge. This is very interesting. So he has got a violent streak in him. All right. Now, during the investigation, police said detectives examined security video from the scene that showed a pickup truck going to and from the area where her body was found, which was, by the way, I believe it was Clinton, Maryland, which is, wow, that's a good ways away. If I drive to Clinton from my house, I'm going to go 30 minutes, and I live about 30 minutes from Greenbelt. So you're going to talk 45 minutes at least to get down to Clinton, Maryland. So it's quite a distance for him to drive and dump her body is what he did. And that was where her body was found. And because they had this video, thank God for video, his truck was seen and he became a suspect and they arrested him. Now, officials added that Landon and Sylla were strangers, though they lived near each other. And again, live near each other. They didn't live in the same community. All right, they did not. He lived in University Park, Maryland, which is near the University of Maryland. She lived in a community over. So when you talk about people living in the same community, you usually think of them like being, on the same street, around the corner, so that they would see each other. There's no good reason why he, being in University Park, should be in Greenbelt, in that location. It just, let me see if I have a picture for you of the area. She lived about down here, and she was walking up here. This is a park. It's called Shrum Park. She used to walking around in that area. And what was very unusual to me was her body wasn't found there. And the only place I thought anybody could get her was on this road here, because otherwise they would have to, she's walking into the park area. They'd have to go grab her and pull her out. And that's a long walk unless you have a gun and say, please walk back to my vehicle. It made no sense. So at some point when she was walking about here, somebody had to grab her right off the road and then take her away from this area, because they searched this area with dogs and everything else, and they did not come up with her. And she was found far, from this area, I'm going to say 45 minutes away in a more remote area of Southern Maryland. Now, Landon guy, I'm trying to think of where we're at here. He's more over here. All right. So what's he doing over here? Now, mind you, the Greenbelt area, there is a Greenbelt central area where there's a movie theater and a few restaurants. So could he be hanging out there? Possible. It's got a little plaza there. People go with skateboards and stuff like that. So he could, for some reason, like that area and be hanging out. But I would not say he lived near her. He lived in another community that was sort of the next community over. So, all right. So it says here, they added that they were strangers, which is very important. If they're strangers, why did he abduct her? Because he did, because he put her in his vehicle, took her someplace, did something to her, and they haven't said what. And but I believe there was an issue of him with body parts out where she was dumped. So he went to some extreme measures at a certain point. Usually that's to hide the body so it can't be identified and so on and so forth. But I don't know how bright this guy was, so I don't know why he did what he did. I can't say that, even as a criminal profiler. I don't know enough yet to determine that. But he took her far, far away from where he lived and where she lived, and where pretty much nobody should be looking, but somebody was walking around, and oh my God, they came across, sadly, her body parts, and they called the police. And then when they looked at video in the area, they found his truck information and were able to link him. So he's not the brightest guy ever, but he obviously was trying to hide the crime. But let's go on here. It says a motive in this case has not yet been determined, and the case remains under investigation. All right. Now here's where it gets a little bit murky. All right. So, all right. Is he a serial killer? It would look like he's a serial killer. It certainly would. And just to get this clear, I want to go back to a case I've been working on also in Maryland, which some people thought was connected, but it is not in any way connected. About an hour to the north in Bel Air, Maryland, Rachel Morin was walking on a path. So she was also in a park, walking on a path, and she got killed by this guy. They have this video of him from LA from 6 months ago. They have his DNA from this crime that he committed at the crime scene with Rachel Morin. She was brutally murdered. She did not know him. It is, as far as the police say, it is a random crime. If this guy chose her because she was walking down a path and raped and murdered her and left her body there, and I don't know that she was raped, that information has not been disclosed, but if she had been, what you have was a pretty traditional serial killer. And he's what I call a fast serial killer. I put serial killers into two groups, fast and slow. The slow ones are the ones that like to abduct, take that person to their like Rex Herman of Gilgo Beach. He liked to take them to his home and do things to them for a long period of time and then kill them and then dump them. Fast serial killers are the ones that they either don't have a home to take them to, they're just not interested. They just do opportunistic stuff. Oh, look, there's a girl on the trail. Hey, I'm going to attack her. In 5 minutes, it's all over. And they go on their way. That's what I call fast serial killer. Is he a serial killer? In my opinion, absolutely yes. Do check out my video. I'll link it below on this. I have a 5 bullet point chart of who people should be looking for in that community. Now, this happened 1 hour away from Greenbelt, Maryland. And so people, some of the stupid media channels going, oh my goodness, it's connected. You can have more than one serial killer in an area of, especially an entire state. Should the police always take a look at similar crimes? Absolutely. But that they were necessarily connected? Absolutely not. Now, this guy is a Hispanic dude from LA. That's what they say he is. I don't know. I don't know where they got the Hispanic from. Was it DNA? Was it witness ID identification? I don't know. It could be something else, but I'm just not sure. But a Hispanic, they say he looks that way. Now, if you look at this guy, well, clearly he's not of Hispanic descent. Okay, he's not. So they're two different guys. So we have two different killers, even though they're both in Maryland, and the murders happened fairly close together. So, all right. So now let's go to this guy. What was his motive? Well, it's a little murky at this point. If you look at serial homicides in general, Mariame Sylla is quite old to be the victim of a serial killer, 59 years old. Usually they go for 20-year-olds, teens, maybe. Now, Rachel Morin was in her 30s, but she was in very good shape, shall we say, very attractive, 30-year-old, and that, so it's like, she's a little trophy. Now, I think she's a very beautiful woman. But I'm a 68-year-old woman, so I look at a 59-year-old woman who looks as attractive as this, and I'm thinking she's very pretty. However, she's not your typical victim for a serial killer. It's odd. It is odd. Now, one of the things that happened when the police were looking for Miss Sylla was that they had people searching for her, dog searching. They were looking and looking, but they never said serial killer. They were thinking could be something else. Now, an interesting thing happened, I think it was like a week ago. Her son was arrested on outstanding traffic warrants and not given bond. And I was like, what the heck is that all about? So I said, I don't know. We had somebody who saw her outside. She went for these walks. She went for walks every day. She liked to take a walk and then she'd go back for prayers. And that was the way she ran her life. And somebody said they saw her, but nobody necessarily said she didn't actually get home. So in theory, and I say in theory because this is what the police have to look at. And sometimes people get really mad at me and go, well, why would you bring that up? Because this is an educational channel. I'm trying to tell you how detectives would have to think about this. We didn't have proof that she never got home. We just had proof somebody saw her in that location out in the park, going toward the park area. That's all we knew. We never heard if she got home. So they arrest the son, don't give him bond on some traffic charges. You got to wonder, did she get home and did the son do something? And therefore, that's why her body hasn't been found, because she wasn't killed she wasn't a serial killer in the park who attacked her like they did Rachel Morin and leave her body where they attacked her, but she vanished. And that's oftentimes is somebody close when you just vanish, especially a 59-year-old woman who is walking in a very open area, mind you. This was not after dark. This is like a housing area. This is not even Rachel Morin did go run on a path that went into the woods. And that is very dangerous for women. So serial killers, oftentimes, that's where they lurk or hang out. They're walking on the path or cutting through, and they see somebody attractive to their serial killer mind is worth raping and murdering. And they look around and there's nobody there. They just hit them over the head with a rock or whatever, drag them away, rape and murder them. She was not near some woods. She was in a very open area. It was extreme. That's why I'm like, what the heck? So that location right here where she's coming up here, I looked at this spot here and my only thought was somebody had to have either she got home and something happened at home and her body was then taken someplace and hidden, or she had to be abducted off of this spot. I just couldn't see that she was wandering around here. Her body wasn't found back there. I said she had to be abducted. But why? She's not your typical serial killer victim. She's too old, just to put it mildly. I'm not sure what weight she was at the time, but usually serial killers go for, they like 120 pounds and under. They like small women, little packages, easy to manage. Now I couldn't find the exact weight on her at the time, but she might've been a small package. So maybe she fit that. And some people are going to immediately say here, oh, it's really weird because he's white and she's black. Okay, all right. Serial killers aren't terribly racist. They're not. Serial killers really don't care what race anybody is. And this is an old myth that came from the early FBI investigations. When the FBI started researching serial killers, what happened was, the communities were a lot more segregated. All right. You had a white community over here and you had a black community over here. And therefore, they weren't near each other. So when a white guy went out to murder, which usually a serial killer tends to stay in his own area, like within a mile of where he lives or works. If he's living in an area where everybody is blonde and white, then he tended to kill blonde and white people. Ted Bundy's always set up this. He killed white women, and they all had hair parted down the middle. My hair was parted down the middle. It was the 1970s. Every college girl's hair was parted down the middle. That was just the hairstyle. He was targeting college girls. He wasn't targeting white women. He wasn't targeting women that had their hair parted down the middle. It was just, he was targeting your college girls of the time in the area where he was. And they happened to be white with hair parted down the middle. If a guy is killing somebody on a bike path, what he wants is somebody who is this little trophy and is available. And he could be standing there going, okay, here comes a girl. And let's say he's a white guy. And here comes the girl down the path. And she's white. She's 120 pounds and has blonde hair. And he goes, oh, that looks good. And then there's some other people around. So she goes by. Then a little bit of time passes. And oh, look, here comes a Hispanic woman. She's cute too. She's 120 pounds. Nobody's around. I'm going to kill her. So what happens is now that there's much more mixing racially in communities, the serial killer is going to kill who is near him. So the College Park, he's in College Park, University Park. That's next to College Park, right near the university. University Park and Greenbelt. Both of those areas are very mixed racially, very mixed racially. So he could have theoretically just been driving his truck along, and along came Mariame, and he said, I'll grab her. More unusual that she's 59. That's the most unusual part. That strikes me as peculiar. But that he cared what race she was, I don't necessarily think that's absolute. So then the question comes down to, is he a serial killer or is there something else going on here? Some people would say, could it be a hate crime? It could be. I mean, it could just be this guy's a whack job who suddenly has decided he hates people who are people of color of some sort. And he sees a fairly dark-skinned woman walking along and he says, I'm going to get her. I don't know. A person who does this is a psychopath. And psychopaths give themselves reasons for what they do. All right? They don't have to be rational reasons. They want a good excuse for why they're going to do what they want to do. They're rationalizing things. So it's like, okay, I want to rape and kill a woman, but I'm going to do it because she talked back to me. I'm going to do it because she gave me a bad look. I'm going to do it because whatever. And so it's interesting that some of the mass murderers who've gone in places and killed, like a white mass murderer has gone and killed black people. A lot of times it isn't, they look at their lives and go, wait a minute, they used to have black friends. What the heck? They're like, they want to make themselves a racist so they get more attention. If they can go kill a whole bunch of people, that's going to get in the news. That's worth it to a mass murderer. They don't even have to be really racist. They just want publicity. So it's very hard to say, what was this guy's motive? Now, I don't know yet whether it was a sexual assault or not. We have not been privy to that. It's a very unusual crime. It is. Say just because abductions, again, usually go with 20-year-olds, not with women who are grandmothers. That's weird. So did he have a different motive than a sexual assault? I don't know. Anything could be true. And since he's a psychopath, and I'm going to say 100% he's a psychopath because nobody does what he did to her and not be a psychopath. Psychopaths have their own crazy little world going on inside their head. They hate people. They have no empathy for anybody. They want attention for themselves. They want power and control. And for some reason, this guy thought that if he kidnapped her, took her someplace and did something to her, whatever the heck it was, he got power and control. And it could be any reason in his little mind why he wanted to do that. Now, if it turns out this is a sexual homicide, then we have a serial killer. And then the police will be looking to see if he's committed other crimes prior to this. And he could have. And he could have killed, he could have, theory, if Rachel Moran's killer wasn't seen, we know what he looks like. And we know this guy isn't it. Theoretically, yes, he could have been in Bel Air and killed Rachel Moran, but that's not what happened. So Was he someplace else? So the police need to look at every place he's been, every place he's lurking around, to find out whether he has killed other people, especially if there's a sexual component to the crime. Now, serial homicide isn't always about the sex part of it. People think, oh, well, why did they need to rape? They had a wife, they had a girlfriend. No, rape is about power and control. He could have raped her for power and control. On the other hand, some serial killers have not used rape as one of the weapons, but they're still serial killers. So they're going to be working really hard to figure out what the heck the motive was here. Since he's had a history of violent assault, is it just something that for whatever reason he decided, I don't know, it's hard to say. They got into an argument, a confrontation as she was walking along. Who knows? It could be the smallest thing. It could be something like he pulled in front of her and she was like, hey, watch where you're going. And that pissed him off. We just don't know. So for me at this point to say he's a serial killer, I cannot say that. I do not know what his motive is. And we won't know what his motive is until, in theory, he tells us. Should we believe him? No, he's a psychopath. Psychopaths lie all the time. He will try to downgrade this murder. If there is proof this is sexual homicide, then he can't get away from that, and we can just call him a serial killer and end it. If there's not proof of a sexual homicide, he will try to downgrade why he abducted and killed her, because he doesn't want to seem such a bad person. So he will not tell them any more than the police know. So he'll say, well, she did this. She punched my car, blah, blah, blah. Any excuse he can get to say that's why he abducted her. The only other thing the police could be looking at is like a murder for hire type thing, where somebody she knows wanted to get rid of her. So they asked this guy to do it, and the guy abducted her and got rid of her. Will they be looking at that? I guess they have to. Now, again, I said the son was arrested and didn't get bond on some traffic violations, which is really weird. But he may have absolutely zero to do with any of this. I don't know. Maybe the police did have some suspicions at the time, so they just tried to keep him there longer. And now they found out, oh, it's not him at all. It's this dude. And they have no connection whatsoever. In which case, it's a total stranger abduction and homicide. But the police have to check these things out, because at this point they do not apparently know the motive. So they're going to look through all of that before they come to any determinations. And the most important thing is, if this is a serial homicide, then they have to look into this guy's past and see if he's committed other homicides of a similar sort, because that would be important. And thank God thank God he was not very bright about the old camera thing. So he has been, thank God, he has been put behind bars, because he is a danger to the community. Rachel Morin's killer is still out there. Please do check the link below. And if you read the bullet point chart, maybe you can help out, and please distribute this as well into the community, because this guy still needs to be caught, and he is a serial killer, and he will kill again. So please do that. But let's wait and see what they come up with as far as any clue about what his supposed motive was. And remember, anything he says that can't be corroborated by other evidence may well be a lie, because that's what they do. He's a psychopath. And I'll stand by that. Thank you for being here. I hope this clears up some information on this particular case. If you're new to the channel, please do like and subscribe. Check my playlist for all the other cases that I've analyzed. This is an educational channel. The purpose of it isn't to, quote, solve crimes. It is to educate the public on how the process works of crime scene analysis and profiling, and also to hopefully reach law enforcement detectives who maybe didn't, could use a little extra training, because, there's never enough money for that. So this is free to detectives. All my videos are open to anybody who wants to watch them on YouTube to learn a little bit more about profiling and crime scene analysis. So thank you for being here, and we'll see what happens with this case.